I am like a tree planted by rivers of water. I bring forth fruit in my season. My leaf shall not wither, and whatever I do will prosper. Hello, I'm Ebonie Manning, and today I will be providing a personal summary of all of the meaningful and relevant information that I have acquired here in the 508 Human Services course at Liberty University. Just thinking about this project honestly gave me what Peterson refers to as stomach's overload. But after relaxing and a lot of prayer, the butterflies diminished and I pulled myself together in order to get the job done. When thinking about my overarching goals or master goals that will enlarge the conversation, I do have a few. Enlarging the conversation is when we identify our weaknesses and step outside of our own box in order to improve our conversation to make it effective when communicating with others. In order for this to become possible, I must listen more, talk less, overcome my shyness, believe it or not, learn to be more confident, and most importantly, believe in myself. I have realized that my shyness is not always acceptable, especially because I consider myself a professional. I have also realized that I must be willing to listen more with less interruption. If I am always stressing the importance of listening to my 4-year-old son, this is something that I must improve myself. I must learn to be what Burley Allen refers to as a level 1 listener at all times. I have learned that I must conquer my shyness, be more assertive, take charge, and prove that I can be a powerful and confident leader while still remaining humble and respectful. This is a must because I look forward to running my own nonprofit organization in the near future. While reading Dr. Carbonell's textbook, he introduced something I never knew existed, and that was something called behavioral blends. According to Dr. Carbonell's "This is Expected of Me" section, I am an IS personality type, and his results were pretty accurate. My positive characteristics consist of outgoing, positive, expressive, loyal, good listener, strong people skills, supportive, and empathetic. My negative characteristics were shy, talkative, poor listener at times, and weak planner. I agree that I am very outgoing and a loyal friend. I am more people-oriented than task-oriented. Although no matter how people-oriented I am, I do tend to still be shy in front of large groups. I prefer to stay in the background and support others. I love for everyone to just get along and be happy. 1 John chapter 4 verse 7 states, "Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God, and whoever loves has been born of God and knows God." When it comes to my "this is expected of me" results, for the most part, my people skills are very strong. But I realize that people skills consist of listening as well as talking. When referring to the behavioral blend, "This is me" section, I am a CIS personality type. Some of my positive characteristics consist of open-minded, flexible, committed, enthusiastic, and very inspiring. Some negative characteristics consist of indecisive, overthinker, emotional, and a grudge holder. When reading this section, the first thing that stood out to me was the statement, "People like your multifaceted flexibility, but sometimes would like you to be more decisive and direct." This statement is a strong indication that I need to start making up my mind. I love to inspire people, and I am very kind to basically everyone I meet. However, sometimes people take my kindness for weakness. I realize that I cannot allow my emotions to control me, and I am currently working on being more forgiving. This course has given me the opportunity to recognize barriers that put limitations on my interpersonal relationships, making it hard for me to improve my communication skills. John Stewart states that the term interpersonal labels the kind of communication that happens when the people involved talk and listen in ways that maximize the presence of the personal. Stewart also said that communicators are always both talking and listening, sending and receiving, giving off cues, and taking them in. My barriers consist of course, shyness, a non-empathetic listener, I always, and listening while giving advice. In order to overcome my shyness, I must understand what triggers my shyness, find my comfort zone, and focus on my strengths. In order to become more of an empathetic listener, I must allow the individual to vent, listen without interrupting, focus on displaying empathy opposed to sympathy, and avoid being opinionated. Proverbs chapter 18, verse 2 states, "A fool finds no pleasure in understanding, but delights in airing his own opinions." Overcoming the phrase, "I always," is very important because Burley Allen indicates that "I always" is a language barrier that often leads to self-defeat. I must always speak life into the situation and focusing on words that continuously produce positive outcomes. Proverbs chapter 18 verse 21 tells us that death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. When it comes to overcoming the last barrier, so I can start to listen without advising, I realize that it is important to wait until the individual is done talking, then give advice, if they ask. I also must remain considerate and respect their feelings, because it's not always about me. When communicating, there are harmful pollutants that we must handle internally in order to become a successful communicator. Because we can be our worst critic, we are usually very hard on ourselves. We tend to display an "I'm not okay, you're okay" attitude instead of looking beyond our flaws. We tend to be very judgmental and notice everything about ourselves that is wrong. Now, this can be a good thing if we are willing to accept our flaws and then correct them. Burley Allen indicates that by reaching a level of self-acceptance, we then can remain open to our self-defeating behaviors. When we learn to have a positive process or positive thought process, we become part of the going somewhere cycle opposed to the going nowhere cycle. In reference to the external pollutants, I think it is safe to say that I often label my behavior. I use the phrases "I never" and "I can't" quite often. I know that these negative labels are unhealthy and lead to negative behavior. According to Burley Allen, it is labels such as these that place us within the going nowhere cycle and perpetuate failure. It is a must that the negative language is replaced with positive reinforcement, not only so others can think highly of us, but so we can think highly of ourselves. Overall, when it comes to accomplishing my master goals, I promise myself that I will incorporate the talker-listener card when communicating with friends and families whenever needed. I found this card to be very amazing. I never knew that a card so positive and powerful existed. I also will focus on listening more effectively and not allowing myself to become distracted. I will focus on listening wholeheartedly. I will also work on listening carefully to what I say and how I say it, while continuously learning more about myself. And most importantly, I will always consult with God. I am a firm believer that any choices or changes made in our lives will have a lasting impact if we seek, listen, and obey God's advice. John chapter 15 verse 7 states, "If you remain in me and my words remain in you, you will ask whatever you desire, and it will be done for you." I believe it, I receive it, and I thank you for your time. Love, peace, and many blessings to everyone.